Calling to order the Parks and Conservation Land Board January 8th meeting to order. And if we can go around the table for attendance, Jessica Sargent,
Anson Boder.
Rick Murphy.
Nicole Hall. And online,
Maggie Vishnu.
Steven Zamorowski.
excellent. Are there any public comments to start us off today? Nothing online. Okay, no public comments. Okay, so the big item for today is elections. We need a chair, a vice chair, and a recorder. And I'm withdrawing for consideration my name for any of those positions. I don't have time in 2026. So looking for volunteers for each of those positions.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Noah's not here.
There you go, Noah, chairman, chairperson.
I would rather not be chair because I'm very, very new to the committee, so that's my excuse. But I would do vice chair if you need it. It sounds like you need it.
Vice chair is helpful to the chair because they can run meetings in the absence.
I would be willing, for reasons I don't completely understand, I would be willing to do that. But I don't want to do anything beyond that.
Just, you want to take these one at a time? So right now for vice chair,
Yes.
I'll move to elect Anton as vice chair.
I second that motion.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that vote of confidence. And here comes the chair now, right?
Right.
You should not show up late, Noah. It's a
Yeah.
big mistake,
Just
big
need a vote.
mistake.
Yes, what's it say? Is there any discussion? All in favor? Of Anthony being vice chair during elections?
Yes,
Yes, you're the chair.
no,
So
I,
do we want to do recorder next, or do we want to do chair next? I am withdrawing for consideration myself from chair.
See, that's the bad news. That's the bad news.
yeah,
So we can either go recorder or we can go chair. Whatever's.
See, I already took the plum position.
yeah, there is no scenario where I can be chair.
Would you be recorder?
I'm just like way, I'm at my max service level. Just being honest though, yeah. I'm at absolutely my max service level. My wife would. Yeah,
Even if we held you down and tickled you for half an hour.
the poor kid might do that already.
You have to tickle his wife, it sounds like.
Sorry. Yeah. Are there any other nominations?
Well, there's recorder and chair,
Gotcha.
so we can, anybody who's been a volunteer for either of those. Rick made it very clear that he was willing to do it for 2025, but that was it, and I think we should respect the fact that he did it for a year. Somebody else's turn.
I would be happy to see somebody else do it. I'm in the kind of the same position. I just tapped out. And yeah, it's just It's not a lot of time, but it is a little bit. I'll do it if nobody else will do it.
What does the recorder do?
Essentially, so what I have done is, because there is a transcript available and video recording, I don't try to record the details. What I do is the motions, anything that needs to be done for the record, then I write down who offered the motion, who seconded it, and the vote. It's really quite simple, but you do have to do. You do have to do it. And unfortunately, I only did your last meetings last night, so I know that I'm behind in it. So if somebody else will be willing to do that, it would be good. You don't, I do it. If I can, I do it here, but you don't have to. You can go and listen to the recording later.
That's something I could do.
But
But just so you all know, I do travel a fair bit during the year, so there may be times when I'm not available, so we'll have to figure out something for that.
you actually don't even need to be here. You can just listen to the recording.
Mm.
And then as long as you pick up so what you need to pick up is the official actions of the committee.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed, and I like the bare bones approach.
So I make a motion that Maggie is the recorder.
A second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
It's a very quiet group today.
Those are very subdued. So do I take it that I'll take over next time, Rick?
Yeah, yeah, I'll do this one, so I've already started it, but if you could do from here on, that would be great.
Yeah, and we'll just talk about how your procedures for that,
Sure.
where you get it out and all that. So we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Sam, do you have your hand raised?
Yes, I did. There it is.
Oh,
I'm going digital, man.
Raise hand for voting.
Yes.
Okay.
vote.
Okay, so we do need a chair. It is not me. So the chair puts together the agenda, the chair writes the recommendation letters for council. The chair presents our PCLB's recommendation to council. Yeah, those are the main tasks. Am I forgetting anything? And coordinates all of this at all.
Then will be the one of the emails that the application goes to. Once this is all.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I can't step up for this. I have a hard enough time making this meeting. And I'm particularly concerned that, scheduling, like when we need to go to town council, things like that, I just won't be able to do things in a timely fashion, and that's not, I just, don't feel comfortable taking that on without being able to do it.
Well, my Wednesday nights are spoken for. I can't do that. Would completely screw up my band life, as you know.
And we can't push it off till March because I'm not sure I can make the March meeting. And I don't think it would be appropriate to have a new member as chair. Someone who's not served before. You gotta get up to speed. So I don't think it changes the dynamic.
Does that leave me? Are you looking at me?
Yeah, Sam, I'm assuming you're not interested. Is that-
I'm noticing that all the gentlemen here that have the same hairdo. I've never noticed that before. Now I'm doing it online here.
We don't call this a hairdo anymore. It's like a head.
You have a great barber.
Mhm.
What's a barber?
Once in a while. Why don't
Well,
we all stare at Sam?
I'm new too, but I've been involved with quite a bit. I don't really, I was hoping this wasn't happening.
It's happening.
Jessica?
It looks like it's happening.
Well, yeah. My first official act will be to mumble into the phone. Okay, that's fine. I'll give it a go if that's what you
Thank you.
want me to do.
Thanks, Sam.
To be clear,
Yep.
you're not stepping away from the board,
I'm not stepping away from the
So-
board, I just do not
Yeah.
have the time this year.
so there's still the support.
Yes, the support, I can answer questions, I can help, I just can't make the time commitment. Sure.
Yeah.
So I
But
mean,
before you vote me in, I would hope that everybody's really engaged and people will do their homework. I'm not the type of person that wants to go back 3 times into issues that we've already discussed, and if people can't keep up, that's going to be a problem. So I think the meetings will go a little differently than under Jessica. If you want me to run the meetings, I will do that, but I may have a different style than Jessica's, just so you know.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica had a different style than Sue, and that's all good. That's what nobody's replicating each other.
so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
so I'll need your help by being involved in doing the homework.
I missed the second on that.
There was no second.
I'll
Oh, I
second.
will. No,
Sure.
All those in favor? Or sorry, discussion? All those in favor? Over to you, Sam.
Well, can you finish up?
I can do it today. Usually, in the past, we have immediately transitioned, but
Yeah, my head is really full and
It's
I'm at like 50% here, so I'd really appreciate it if you could take it on.
absolutely. So where we were gonna start next was updating the application process for those of.
so just 1 second. I want to say thank you very much for the work that you've done. It's been awesome and I know how much work it is. I can't step up. Sam, I appreciate that you are, but in Noah too, I understand that. But thank you very much, Jess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Great leadership.
It was a hard decision, but I couldn't commit the time that was needed, and so I only thought it was fair to step back.
Understood.
But I'm not like stepping away. So updating the application process, there is the revised version based on our discussion last meeting on the table over here for those who are in the room. And then
I can email Maggie and.
email it to folks right now.
That would be great.
So big picture, where we are at, so Sam, Sue and I had a discussion after the meeting last month where we're considering 3 pieces. There's the application form, there's the guide for applicants, so guide to the form. And then the third piece, which would be the guide for PCLB members, which would be the update of the acquisition evaluation process. So we are currently focusing on the application form itself, and then we would make a user's guide to that. So we don't have to include all of the information in the actual application form itself. If there was guidance we wanted to provide to an applicant, they would go into that user's guide. And then the larger document, which would be the revision of our application evaluation process, which would also include updates to make it consistent with our new evaluation process, our new app. So just capturing all that. Dan, did I capture that correctly?
It sounds good to me.
So really, today, we're just focused on the form. Once we finalize the form, then we would move on to the guide, and then once, you know, we have all those pieces, then it's the bigger board. Yeah. Because I think there was some confusion about what should go where, and like putting almost too much information in places like the applicant didn't need to know the history, but the board might, for example. And Nicole, I did not look through this, the new language from Tom.
Yeah, so
in here.
the new language from Tom is actually on page 5. The way he had put it through was that he was almost like another exhibit. It's part of the form, but it's maybe not everybody has to do it because it really is. It's my impression, the way he worded the language is if an appraiser, a licensed appraiser was not able or not willing to actually release the appraisal. I think that was when we were chatting with him. That's a very real issue or potential concern. And so this is that basically an affidavit from a licensed appraiser saying, yes, I appraised it, and this is the amount. And so I guess it stands in the place of an actual appraisal.
Because this specific piece would require coordinating with Tom, I suggest we start there. Rather than like looking through the revisions, just so that we make sure we finish that conversation and can get back to him if we're good with it or if we have any questions. Does everybody want to take a minute to look at the language?
Everybody have this.
I felt like we really, this looks good to me. I felt like we really spent a lot of time on this a few meetings ago and came to a really clear agreement and resolution, and this is just the footprint of what we agreed upon. This.
Yeah, I agree with you, Noah. This reads to me very similar to what you would get from a CPA after he reviews your financial statements. This is like an opinion from the professional. So.
I guess my question is for the land trust, if the appraiser would be willing to sign it. I thought it was the applicant that was going to attest to the appraisal. Not the.
That was also my confusion.
That is what we agreed upon doing, they're basically effectively sort of an A and a B, where if the appraiser was unwilling to do this, then the applicant would effectively sign for them. That's what we agreed upon. But that in order to move forward, we needed one or the other.
Yes,
So
I agree with that. So, you know, and I think if the appraisal doesn't do it, we still need the name of the appraiser and the license number. And then I guess then the landowner can sign the attestation. So we need an option C here, I guess. People agree on that?
This does not ask for an appraiser's license number. I don't know what's common practice about that, if that's needed or not.
Is that something, Scott, that's sensitive to people, to appraisers?
That I would have to find out. I didn't ask that specific question to the appraiser. But I could find that out for you.
Okay, great.
It should be because you should be able to go on the state website,
Right.
find the license. Appraiser, the state license.
Yeah, I
don't
can't
see
imagine
how
that.
this, all we'll do is tell the appraiser before we contract with them that they have to sign this. I think the only thing that, they might do is they might charge us a little more.
Time and money, that's all it takes.
So
Thank you.
we would like to add the appraiser's license number. And we would like to add an option.
Sue, just so everybody knows, Sue is in.
Oh, great. Oh, and she has information to share. Let me just wrap that up and then, do we want to include an option where the applicant makes it?
I question, should that be on 4? So if you turn back a page, this is still the applicant's piece. And so, because of the way Tom's language was, I kind of created an addendum saying like, if you said yes, please complete these things below. If they're applicable, and include a copy of the report. The report is not appropriate for attachment. Please include exhibit A on page 5.
Okay.
So I guess I wonder, if it's applicant, if none of those apply, it's like another line. If none apply.
Yeah.
Can you attest below?
Yes.
Sorry. So like applicant attestation.
Yes. Sue? Sue?
You have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica. I apologize. I don't know. I've been running back and forth from my mother's house and I've got renovations going on in my bathroom and I can't find my keys. So I'm here, but I just wanted to make sure, and I had some documents I needed to get to you guys. And so I'm not sure where you are. It sounds like you're working on the attestation from the appraisers. Is a document that Tom provided you guys with? I just wanted to be clear about what you guys were talking about.
Yes, we are talking about the application form and we started with the language that Tom provided us, which. I'm so sorry. Nicole is going to email to you now, which is on page 5. Ooh, sorry. But I think we are wrapping up that discussion with a small addition to the appraisal attestation and a separate small addition to the applicant attestation. Did anybody? I think that we are done with that.
Yeah, so the, from an organization standpoint, it seems like we have this land acquisition application form appraisal attestation exhibit A, and then exhibit B should be in this situation where the appraiser is unwilling to do this, the applicant signs the form.
Yeah, yes.
To basically saying that they're being truthful, forthright, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something that just documents and does that attestation with the amount on it. The other issue we talked about is if the appraiser does include the appraisal, does that automatically make it public domain and will be on the website, or is there a stipulation that we can keep that within the committee here in the town? That we talked about that before.
I think that's a follow-up question, right?
I
don't think that's something we can determine.
So if it is in fact anything we receive becomes a public document, we just need to make a note of that on the application, just so people know. Not to discourage people from providing the appraisal, but I don't think we really need it anyway. But it's good to have. But the appraiser needs to know that will be public information.
That's just a follow-up question, so. I think
I've started for myself.
yes.
From my point of view, I'd like people's opinion. Option B is fine for me. I'm completely happy with the attestation by the appraiser. Do people agree with that?
You do.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
But honestly, I don't see why an appraisal should be entered into the public domain. I don't think that should become a public document.
That's above our pay grade, I think, Anton. That's a question for Tom. I don't, you know,
I mean, the closest parallel that I have to this is if you're a CPA and you do an audit of a company and the results are published and you certify it, you're not releasing your work papers and all of these other things, you know?
right. Not to belabor this, but so maybe we should just ask for the attestation by the appraiser and not ask for the appraisal. Is that an option?
So can I jump in for a sec? I don't, we as a board, in my opinion, don't need to see the appraisal. But the town council, for their due diligence, may want to see it. Or they may just trust that the staff has seen it and it's in the town documentation prior to that. So my guts are that we don't need to see it and we won't to see it. Because I thought that Andrew pretty much basically said that, you know, they don't want to share a full appraisal and
The
have it in
whole
the
point,
public domain.
yeah,
And the town council, there's very few things they can go into executive session about, and real estate matters are one of them. So that means it's not public.
So they just need to know it's done. We just need to know it's done.
Right. We need to know it's done and the number that's on the application is a accurate number.
we're forgetting our history here. The whole point of this adaptation is because we're not gonna ask for the document. That's the
Correct.
point of it. Like sort of full stop, and that this is saying that this was an appropriate appraisal done by a licensed appraiser, period, and that.
But that's option B. No, that's option B. Option A is send in the report. So what I'm putting on the table is, should we just remove that option A?
I think that's what Noah's saying too.
That's what I agree with that. Sue, you agree with that?
Well, I don't see what the A's and B's are because that I don't have that document in front of me.
I sent it to you.
Oh, is it on my email?
Yeah.
Okay. But
Just strike
yeah, we don't need to, if it says anything about needing the appraisal, I agree. We don't.
Okay.
Yeah, our conversation with the land trust, the meeting was, I think, very clear and explicit about reticence of sharing that document, like, so. Period. So this was what we came up with as, okay, then, if that's the case, then let's do this.
Okay. So Nicole, do people agree with that? Raise your hand. All in favor of that? Okay. Nicole, will you go back to Tom and just explain that? And just make sure that our understanding that they don't need to have a copy of that appraisal during the application process is accurate. I assume that's correct, but just double check.
You know, just to clarify, when they go to vote on, they may want to see the appraisal, but again, they can go into executive session to do that. If that's the case. So you know, if Tom, just for Nicole, if you know, Tom brings that up, it's just, we don't, that's just really not our purview. That's the town council's purview.
Yeah, but the thing is, they wouldn't have access to that document because we wouldn't have it, and it would just delay the whole process. So that's why I'm asking Tom if for any reason they need that document. Again, the town council is not qualified to review an appraisal either. I don't think. Maybe there's some people that are, but the whole purpose for going through this process is to make sure that we have some kind of confirmation that the value on the application is correct. So we never really needed to see an appraisal and to evaluate the appraisal. We just needed to make sure we could certify that that number given in the application for the valuation of the property is accurate. Do people agree with that?
Yes.
So I think what we're saying is let's not ask for the application of the appraisal. Let's not have a copy of the appraisal. Let's just ask the appraiser for that attestation, or the default to that is the landowner attestation.
Yes.
Yep.
And we just need confirmation from Tom that that will serve his purpose. Because he's the one that's answering the access to information requests.
Yes. Okay, so back to the application, we had,
Jessica,
Yes.
sorry, can I just make one comment on the appraisal attestation form?
Sure.
I'd like to just, I don't know exactly when this is gonna be finalized, but I'd like to just make a note that I'd like to talk with my appraiser about the last requirement at the bottom. It says that the appraisal complies with the requirements in Treasury Regulation Section 1.170. Is that my understanding of it, and I could be wrong, that's why I want to get a little bit more clarification from the appraiser, is that Treasury Regulation section really refers to appraisals that are done for the IRS for donation purposes. And that might not always be the case, that it has to pass that standard for a typical appraisal for, just appraising property that we're buying. So I just wanted to get, I want to talk to the appraiser and just find out, like, what does that really mean? And if there would be cases where like that level of that high of a bar would not need to be reached, and then I could come back maybe with some comments to you guys.
That'd be great. Thanks, Scott. And some alternative language about what the level is that's appropriate, that'd be great.
okay. So in December, we skipped around a bit, so I wanted to ask Nicole because she did the actual
I noticed that
changes.
we left off at 5. So that's page 2. About passive recreation.
I had a couple comments about this page, that's all right.
Page 2.
Yeah, page 2. The first comment is, if I'm understanding this right, number 1 and number 2 seem duplicative of each other. Has there been any significant species found on here? And it says, what species are they? Yes or no? If the answer is yes. And then the next question is, what significant species have been observed on the parcel? I'm not sure how those questions are asking different information.
That's if there have been any organizations or agencies that have identified, and then the second is if the applicant has identified, observed any. So for example, my understanding is, if the town has said that there's, or the stakes, we know that habitat is notoriously forest, has identified a species, but then, for example, like on Broadturn Farm, there are the bats, and so this is adjacent to Broadturn Farm, for example. So that is an opportunity for the applicant to say, well, no agency has identified them. They're likely there because we know they've been identified on a neighbor's property.
Okay, that is reasonable. That's certainly not how I read number 2.
You almost seem like they can be combined, right?
Either they can be combined, or we just need to clarify that number 2 is about the applicant themselves.
Then why don't you just insert what significant species has the applicant observed on this parcel?
Yeah, that's fine. So something like that,
That would take care of that.
yeah. That's fine.
Great.
Just
Yes, that's exactly the difference of those two questions. So that works for me.
so my second question is about number 4.
Can I just nitpick that for 1 second? I mean, typically we'd be the applicant, but information for question 2 would be usually coming from the landowner. So it went through us directly, we would be passing on observation.
Well, then say or landowner. Say applicant or landowner.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would have lumped that under the same institutional knowledge. Not meaning that, not you personally, but that you have evidence from
Yeah,
the transacting party.
and I think we would do that. I'm just trying to think of another applicant that might not interpret it as broadly.
Good.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
As the applicant or landowner. Observed on the person. Okay.
Yep.
And 4?
Yeah, so number 4, are there public or protected lands within a half mile? A half mile has no biological, social, or ecological relevance. I suggest that, so the question above that, does the parcel abut any public or protected lands? Okay, perfect, that's very clear, right? The second one, the next question should be, I guess, if the answer to 3 is no, then what is the nearest protected land? What is the nearest? Because that's really what we care about. And then that's up to us to look at the distance to that. Because us putting in some arbitrary distance of value, this suggests that we value a half mile. When there's no reason to value a half mile distance.
Half mile is walkable for people.
Maybe. Not,
Well, yeah, so given that I wrote the question, let me explain this. I am understanding what Noah is saying. What we're trying to accomplish here is giving points, and this we'll have to reflect this back in the matrix, but giving points to properties, parcels that are within are close to existing conservation lands, where there's open land between there that we can connect. So basically, trying to predict giving value to a piece of property that's close to protected lands where there are other open lands that we could potentially acquire or connect in the future. So yeah, half mile was arbitrary, Noah. So I'm willing, yeah. So what is your suggestion?
so my suggestion is to, if the answer to question 3 is no, then what is the next nearest protected land and how far is it?
Well, if the answer to 3 is yes or no, we still want to know what's nearby.
Yes, sure.
So would it satisfy your concerns if you just eliminated within a half a mile and put in nearby? Because you'd like to know about them, and then
Sure.
the committee can make a decision on the fly about whether it's relevant or not.
Yeah, sure.
Is it what are the closest public or protected land?
Yes, what are the nearest?
What are the nearest?
Yeah. I just imagine one parcel that's directly on 95 that's conserved. And somebody brings up another parcel that's on just the exact opposite side of 95 for conservation. That's less than a half mile across. But that's a pretty major barrier that isn't walkable.
So the
Right,
committee is
and-
gonna want to know about
And
them.
it's not necessarily, hopefully not an animal corridor, although it probably is. But okay, that makes sense. So in the quantitative assessment, we'll have to hold hold any point assignments for discussion. So phase 2 of the application or the assessment. That's fine.
Can I just ask a question here? I guess I'm lost. I usually don't do these Zooms, so that's why I'm trying to find all the documents. Where are you actually looking at? I do have the draft just now that Nicole.
We're on page 2 of the draft.
I'm sorry?
Page 2 of the draft, we're at number 4.
Page 2 of the draft. Of the draft that you just sent me? Oh, I see.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Yes, I got it. Thank you.
And I believe there is consensus is what are the nearest public protected lands, and there's no automatic point generation from that. It's a discussion point for us in the evaluation.
Yeah.
Are there any other considerations for the board?
I mean, it could be that enhances the point value for number 3.
Yes.
That's the context of that.
Right, it's not directly abutting, but
Right, I think it's good to keep it open for the discussion. I think that the target kind of property there is if it's a parcel that's open, if the open land exists between the two parcels, the currently conserved one and the applicant, we would give that extra points. Does that make sense?
but there still is value for nearby protected lands, even if they aren't currently directly adjacent. And we want to preserve that ability to consider.
Is there a value in that in itself? Worth points?
I think
No, what
that's
do you think?
depending on the property discussion.
And it could be, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, that's tough because it's a little bit abstract, right? Because you could look at a map and say, oh, there's an undeveloped parcel in between there, but it turns out that landowner is incredibly antagonistic to conservation and would never allow that. But nonetheless, it is effectively conserved because that parcel also won't be developed. So that's a really hard
So hard theoretical.
nuance, yeah.
So we have two alternatives. One is to give no points for 4 until we discuss it, or give some points and then we can adjust it.
I think we should be giving points to landscape thinking. That's really what this talks about, is it might not be exactly connected, but it is looking at a landscape of conservation lands. And that we should value that.
But
I agree. Maybe we just put a note that it's one of those things on that the form that we need to look at.
okay, yeah. So
In
we're
other
gonna
words,
get
put points, don't, but look at it to make sure. And
sure. So no automatic points, and it's for discussion for number 4. And we're gonna change the wording of number 4. Right, we're gonna take off the half mile.
Yeah,
Are we ready to move on to 5?
Mhm.
So we haven't briefly discussed 5 either, and this is, will the parcel offer public access for passive recreation? And then my thought on that is, do we consider within 5, or do we add a separate question related to active recreation?
Well, are we certain about the passive definition of passive recreation requiring motorized?
That was my question also. What are those definitions? Because I mean, hiking is pretty active, if you ask me. So is it motorized versus, is it snowmobile versus? So that's,
In the original application, existing or active recreation was defined as ball fields, motor vehicles, etc. Passive was defined as birding, hiking, horseback riding, skiing, etc. I'm just saying that's what was in the original application, the current application.
Right. So that was my feeling, is the previous definition included in passive I mean, active, like organized sports was active. We just need to be clear on whether we include that here or not. I don't think we want to include that, do we?
Active recreation is a approved use under the bond language. And so for me, the question is whether active recreation would receive a different evaluation criteria, just like historic preservation.
Yeah.
Meaning, do we put active into conservation or do we?
We briefly discussed.
We
this.
briefly discussed.
Because we were saying, does that defer to the Parks and Rec Board?
Right.
Right. We talked about the fact that we need a separate evaluation process for let's call it active playground kind of purchases.
This is a really hard, this is a really challenging struggle, and I want to highlight two things. One, the town just funded a parcel for the land trust to conserve that explicitly did not allow any recreation, period. Right? The money was spent to conserve habitat for biological processes. Full stop, not any. Likewise, Rachel Carson National Wildlife Refuge, which is in Scarborough, their objective is wildlife first, humans second. Like, period. That's the objective of the National Wildlife Refuge system. And so how do we deal with that from an accounting perspective, where a question like this suggests that we give more value to these things? You know, do we give more value to them, or do we just want to know? And that's kind of two different, we need to really think hard about.
I think we just need to, I think we just need to know. There's possibly going to be more active recreational applications than we've seen. And that's what the whole discussion about, adding recreation, well, not adding recreation, it's always been there. It's just we might see that coming up more. I think it's good to know if it exists. And I think there's a value in both. I think there's a value in the Rachel Carson that doesn't allow, whatever, but they do allow fishing. But there's also value in providing, dirt bikes or snowmobiles or, I think there's value in all of those things. So I think it's a fair question.
I will say the council will ask it. Meaning when you're doing the presentation, they are going to ask if there's existing and what it is, if there's potential for future. For example, how close is the nearest parking lot? Like, how would people access it? What are the plans? Are there going to be trails? Those are questions that are going to come up from council, regardless of if we include it in a points-based system. That's something that they're going to want to know.
Can you tell us about what in your memory, did the council ask you about when we proposed funding for the parcel for just the easement, just the wildland easement? Was there a conversation about no public access?
Yes.
And what was the tone of that conversation?
The tone was that they had been getting public comments. So they wanted more information. So they were already coming into the conversation with some public feedback. So they were very curious. I will say that for them, it was not a deal breaker. Public, like land for Maine's future requires public access. It is, the previous council was not under the same sort of restrictions, like, oh, we won't consider anything if it doesn't include public access. That wasn't where they were coming from, but they did want to know, well, what are the other values, I don't know if the land trust has other other thoughts, impressions from how that went, but that was also a very important parcel for water quality. So there are also habitat and ecosystem services that are negatively impacted by public access. So I think that there was recognition there that not all values are compatible with public use, but we need to make it clear why that is. Scott?
Right,
I would
so,
just add-
the-
I would just add that, if you look at the list of items that are kind of eligible for land bond money, were put on the ballot. Public access is basically just one of them. There are other items on, I think there's like 7 of them, and we could pull it up and look at it, but there are other ones that you don't need to have public access in order to be eligible for that land bond money. And so I remember when we did that discussion about that property, there were 2 eligible items out of the 7 that were part of that property. And so the land bond, it seemed eligible for land bond, and the council acknowledged that.
right, so this gets back to, I think that this committee has to agree that, one, that we have to have a separate application for any recreational parks kind of application. And 2, that there is value in both conserving land for non-human access as well as with activities. The reason that we give points here is because the town, in its comprehensive plan, provides an incentive or just expectation that we're increasing the public access to wild places to conserve land, and that there is, I think it's a quarter mile, that there's a place where somebody can go into conserve land within a quarter mile or a half mile of their homes. The town is contributing money to this process. Some part of that, and for some lands, public access is important to the town, and that's why we give it points here. It's not required, but it is something we want to continue to do, is provide access to the public for these conserved lands.
That's helpful context, thank you.
In the bond, it's to provide or maintain public access, to allow passive or active recreation, and separately, it's to provide easements for walking or biking. Those are
So-
3 of the 7.
So the bottom line is, our duty is to be stewards of the bond fund. And the bond fund, from the language that Jessica just read, does embrace the concept of active recreation. So I agree with your comments about the value of all sorts of access. I don't know that I would want to be constrained by an application that doesn't embrace active recreation opportunities. And here's the reason. If we don't incorporate that into the application, then we may not be giving points and it may not score well, or we may give an approval or a recommendation to fund a particular property. And then somebody could say, well, there's not active recreation opportunities in our application. Why did you do that? So if the guiding star here is that we can advise to use land bond money for active recreation, then our application process ought to be consistent with that. There might be a property with a snowmobile trail across it, and it's a small corner of the property, but there are other reasons that we want to conserve it. And so do we want to be tainted by that? Do we want to say, no, it's got active recreation, our application doesn't embrace that, the committee doesn't like that? So I feel that it ought to be in there. It ought to have some factor, some weighting in the process. And I think that we ought to embrace, I think that we have a duty to embrace the responsibility to follow the language of the bond approval. And I think it needs to be in there.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I always go back to the parking lot, that was appropriate and approved and highly visible use of land bond funds.
Talking about Higgins Beach.
Yeah.
Well, Higgins Beach parking lot was in the background. A driving force of that was a place for surfers. Well, surfing is, it's not motorized, but man, I think it's active. I would not want to be able to help fund that, even though it, there's no endangered species on that parking lot, yet it's a perfectly valid use of the land bond money. That's a great example, Jess.
When I
And
question
I-
the word
I'll-
conservation, you are conserving it from like further development.
That is true.
So,
That is true.
Right, yeah, that's important. Thank you, Nicole, because I think, yeah, there's value. The council of the town sees significant value in conserving land against property development as well as to preserve the habitat for critters. So that we're not saying there's no value in that here. We're just providing additional points for public access in a passive way, in the passive recreation.
So to your point, I mean, you could imagine that two kinds of applications. One that says, look at this land and, oh, yeah, it does have a little piece of a snowmobile trail. Or you can see another parcel that says, hey, this has a little piece of snowmobile trail and these other benefits.
Mhm.
And there's a rationale to conserve both,
Yes.
right? So with that, should this question instead list the 7 components that are in there from the land bond and say which of these things, check which of these things are met in this?
I actually think that's a great idea. It's not currently in the application, but I am in favor of using land bond funds as almost as an education piece. What are the categories that this parcel fits? Because we could have a conservation and historic site parcel.
Yeah.
None of these are necessarily mutually exclusive. So I'm thinking maybe even at the beginning, like a check box for, which of the following purposes?
It sounds like we pretty much agree. It ought to be in there somehow. I
Yeah,
think.
I agree. But yeah,
Should it be here?
Has a good.
Should it be here or should it be
I think it
elsewhere?
should be right at the front.
And then if it's at the front, does that then remove the necessity to have in question 5?
yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah.
So I will rework that, but I think we need an agreement within this committee right now to agree that what we're doing here is providing a mechanism to evaluate land for conservation in the passive sense. There is desire within town to use land bond money for parks, ball fields, playgrounds, other things that I don't think this application is really suited for. So I think we need to have an application, and it should be one of the priorities for 26 to have a separate application for other kinds of land purchases. And I think if we do that, some of this fuzziness goes away.
Yeah, actually, if you look what I sent you guys, my goals, what I commented in the goals was that it needed to happen, that we either have to work with the Recreation Advisory Committee to evaluate it, or at least give our input on it, like a co-project or something like that. That was one of my things of what going forward. So
So the fuzziness is definition of recreation versus conservation.
well,
We want to eliminate, is that what you're saying, Zam? We want to eliminate that fuzziness.
Well, that's not quite right because recreation includes walking through the woods, right?
Well, okay, well, it doesn't say
But yeah, I think first of all, we need to know we need to
Definition.
confirm the definition of active versus passive within the town bylaws or wherever. Can you help us with that, Nicole?
difference between passive and active.
Or whatever, yes, exactly. Or whatever wording we need to use that's in line with the
Within
current.
the range and comp plan,
They might be,
yeah.
Or what's operative now? How are people thinking of it now?
I think it's fuzzy. I think people use it in different ways.
I guess I
We
know.
have one category here too, because the council just funded a project like this. Of course, is farming. Farming is not typically considered passive. And it's not typically considered natural or wildlife conservation, but it is a use that the land bond has funded in what, 4 projects.
There's a question in here specifically about that.
well, the next one down mentions farmer and
Could we go back to your original comment where you talked about listing the items from the land bond? And put it in sort of in the beginning of this document. This is an application, right? This is not an evaluation form as far as I'm concerned. Put the 7 activities, whatever, that from the land bond and say,
Check.
yeah, what can you do here? Because active and passive are inherently subjective terms. It's active for you, might be passive for me. So, I mean, why go down this road and unnecessarily complicate your lives? Well, maybe I'm being simplistic here, but I think you want to try to keep this relatively simple because this is just an application form. You want to see what might be coming to you. You have a more extensive, as I understand it, you have a more extensive evaluation form which you look at.
Yes.
So this is
Yeah.
just to get an idea of what in the world you're looking at. If I understand it correctly, and I may not.
No, I agree.
No, you're Anton, that's correct. Then we take a next step in scoring those on the evaluation, the quantitative assessment. So,
Right, which is gonna be step 2, as I understand it.
well, yeah, it's
It's
undergoing,
gonna
but we
come
have
after
to,
this document.
right, initially we did the form first, and then we changed the application to help work with the form. And now I think we're talking about the application itself, and we'll have to readjust the quantitative assessment as well, which is fine.
Okay.
We
Well-
might as well do this right. It's not a
Well,
problem.
then maybe stop torturing yourself with this active and passive conversation and just say, what in the world can we do here? You know?
Well, Jess had suggested putting in a checklist in the early part of the application. I think my sense is everybody likes that.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, I
think,
like it. I don't know whether the rest of you like it.
well, I like.
No, I think there's
I
agreement
don't know
there.
if I like it.
Raise your hand if you
So-
support that.
Yeah,
All right, good.
and then, I think I think I sense that the flavor of the board is that active recreation should be embraced for the reasons Sue set out and others did, I think, and the fact that that's what's in the bond language. And so am I right that we all agree that active should be considered as part of our mission here?
It depends on what you're defining as active,
Well,
See what I mean? It's
right? No, you're
subjective.
right. That's why I
So,
asked that.
Sam, in our application is always, the math in our application as it is always going to favor properties that have more habitat and endangered or threatened species and acreage than other like ball fields or whatever. And so a ball field is probably going to score quantitatively lower on our evaluation process. Then the committee will say, okay, I get that the number is not great, the number is lower than anything else, but we still like it or dislike it, and then translate that to the town council. and they can make the decision. And our communication to the council will be, it didn't score very well, but here's why we like it, or here's why we dislike it. So we don't need to build that, we don't need to have the score come out right based on our preference or a dislike of one or the other. But we do need to have some kind of consistent tool that will show a typical property. The ones that we've gotten have all come in a range, some are high, some are low. But I think I don't think that we want to bind ourselves into finding the perfect quantitative algorithm that produces a mathematical result based on properties we don't even know about. They don't exist yet. So what I'm saying, Zim, is maybe it's better just to preserve the flexibility. I definitely feel, my personal opinion is, it definitely has to be in the application. I don't know about how many points it gets. I'm perfectly comfortable recommending or not recommending a property that may or may not score very highly. I'm fully capable of explaining what my reasons are. And so I'm comfortable doing it that way. I do like the tool. I do like having some standardized process so that at least I can look at that years later and say, oh yeah, well, I looked at it and here's why I favored such and such or disfavored such and such. So I feel like let's put it in the application. I don't know about the points. I don't know how to do that, but let's move on with it.
I think
Okay, so the reason we're going around in circles here, I think, is because we're anticipating being asked to do something that we've never done before, which is evaluate land purchase for a ball field, for a track, for a playground. This, in my mind, this application process, this form is not adequate to assess that kind of purchase. So I don't think we can assume that this application is going to work in that case. I think we need a separate application for those kinds of purchases. And if that's the case, a lot of this discussion and a lot of this fuzziness goes away. Do people agree with that?
And conceptually here, help me out. Aren't we looking at two, one is an application. And the other form that I have seen in my brief period here has been an evaluation form. They're two separate animals, aren't they?
Yes.
This one comes first. That one comes second. Isn't the evaluation form where you pick up questions about ball fields and motorbikes and all of those other things? Doesn't this land acquisition form this is the first step in kicking the process off, right? You're not going to make any kind of recommendation based upon this application form.
Right.
You're going to make it after it goes through the evaluation process. So it seems to me that the issues that ZAM is bringing up belong as part of the evaluation form, not necessarily part of the application form.
Anton, you need to remember, what's our process? People fill out the application, we score it based on that information. We have a presentation from the landowner or the purchaser, and then we rescore it, for lack of a better word, based on the information we receive, right? So the existing form in my mind, the form that we're moving from, does not help the applicant provide the information we need to score the property effectively. So what the goal of the new form was to ask for more information so that we could score it more effectively.
Okay.
Because anticipating that it's not always going to be the land trust that knows exactly what we're looking for and gives us the information we need. So you can't separate the two things, I don't believe. They have to be connected.
I think the tough thing for me, thinking of an end user in having two separate apps, when it all ties back to one single land bond language.
The way I've always thought about it is that we would coordinate with the appropriate committees, like the recreation committee, and it's more of they're not separate apps, they're like pick your own adventure, right? Like it fits three categories and we consider this for conservation, and then for recreation, it's a to be developed assessment criteria that we wouldn't do in a silo, we would work.
Or, yeah,
The recreation committee as to what does their comp plan say, what are their goals, and how might we in tandem evaluate that type of application.
In my opinion, as I was working on my part for this meeting, I was thinking of just that. We're updating, Zam and I are working on the verbiage for the application process. And as I read it, it kept coming up to me that we have got to at some point be working with the recreation. And so we'll update this, we'll get it approved. And then I think the next step would be to sort of touch base with the Recreation Advisory Committee. And maybe we're going to update it again. And it's all going to be one form like Nicole wants it to be. But at first, we have to start. First, let's just do it for the conservation portion and leave it the way it's been, ambiguous, for active and passive recreation. And then, once we get it all approved and everything, then we can move on to the very specifics of recreation. Because otherwise, we really will get bogged down on it.
Great.
Much like the open space plan, there's going to be a trails plan, so how do we incorporate that, so this is not we're done for the next 20 years process. This is a constantly incorporating town priorities and voter priorities, so that it's a living, evolving document. Our work is never done.
I agree, back to our earlier, I think it was Jess's earlier point, that the language of the land bond should really be our guidelines, and we should, and frame things. So we should really be looking at everything through that lens. Where there needs to be clarification on some of that in operational terms, then we can get to that. But I really think we need to keep referring to that.
I just want to do a time check. It's almost 11:20, so wrapping up in the next 10 minutes.
yeah. So was there any more like big items that people had thought on the application for changes? What I'll do is I think what I should do is rework the application based on this feedback. And I agree that we should follow the land bond charter, for lack of a better word, and make a go of it. I really feel like we need an agreement with this committee, within the committee, that parks and ball fields and other let's call them organized activities is a separate issue. I don't think we can confuse the two. Do people agree with that?
Title is Parks and Conservation Board,
Yeah.
so they fall under you
Right.
as of right now, so.
Sam, to your first question, there's one other point I want to raise, and I think this is hopefully a very simple point. On question 8 on page 3. Does this parcel include growing crops, tree farming, or grazing that will continue to be used as such? I'm not comfortable with us trying to list a few agricultural processes. I think this should be, does this parcel include agriculture or farming? Or just very generically, and then ask the applicant to explain what are their agricultural purposes, if the answer is yes. There's
Okay.
just so many different kinds
Right.
of agriculture, and we don't want to try to favor or exclude one versus the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Forestry, for instance, is another one.
Absolutely, right. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I wanted to add to 6. I think vernal pools are certainly important, so either a vernal pools themselves or other habitat features such as vernal pools and leafy.
Yeah, I thought we added that, but yep, I thought we had added that as a separate one, but I think we should as well.
I think I didn't even notice that. Oh. Would we also in that section 6 put rails? He's talking about access. I originally put the question up with 5. But 5 doesn't like know certain aspects.
Are you talking about 6?
Yeah, 6.
Yes. Yes, that's a good point. I think it should include access to trails.
We're talking about page 3, question 6.
No, page 2 on ours.
Page 2?
On the draft 2.2. It's, yeah, question number 6. I don't think that's changed, so it might be on a different page on yours.
What's the question? Sorry.
Does or will the parcel provide access to any of the following? And it's got a list of check boxes and just said adding
Other
vernal
habitat
pool,
features.
or that other habitat.
That has marbles.
Right.
And then, well, yeah, then they could
Well,
expand.
wait, I think we're confusing two different things. This is more kind of from a, I don't know what the language, basically, when you're on a trail, what can you see on the trail versus what kind of habitat exists? Vernal pool would be more of a habitat question. And it is a habitat question.
I think the reason I had highlighted it on 6 is that it was on the original application somewhere.
Yeah, I would take it off. We asked about vernal pools in the habitat section. This is more if you're walking, if you have public access, what are you going to see? Where are you going to walk? Are you going to see an ocean, a beach, a saltwater marsh, a river, farmland, fields and forests? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but where did it ask about that? What is the habitat section?
That's number 1, I guess, is that does it include potential habitat for any significant species? It doesn't specifically say anything about vernal pools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it does. It should somewhere. It did in the old application. I mean, the version I have. Let me go back. Let me go back. Sorry, my brain's between the Zoom and my brain right now being foggy. I'll look at that.
Okay. So we just want to make sure that in the application trails and vernal pools we give some where they can indicate this.
Did we agree that we're going to list the items from the bond language in the
Yes.
beginning of this form?
You and I did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
know.
think-
We-
I
you
think-
and I
no.
agreed.
We did
Are you-
a hand raise on that, I thought. Yeah.
I think we did.
All right, I did. So, having agreed that, what are you gonna do with item 5 here, in your passive active conversation? Are you gonna keep that in, or are you gonna get rid of it, or?
I mean, is there a value in making another question after it that talks about active? Is there a harm in saying, is it passive, is it active?
Does that obviate the need for,
With the
Obviate
thought
the
that
need
if
for
you
item
got an active
5?
one, it needs its own application,
It,
right?
yeah,
If we stand, will the parcel offer access for recreation? Please describe.
No, I think that's in the project, that goes in the project summary, to me. Like you're talking about really the qualitative description of what the land is. But I think to your point earlier, a lot of these subjective things that I personally think why 5 can just go and
that's what I'm trying to raise here. Do you want to keep item 5 in here or not?
I think it
It-
will.
it-
have-
yeah. Can I leave that open? Because I have to look at the checklist first. Again, the town puts value on, and part of the comprehensive comprehensive plan is giving people access to land. Okay, so it's important to have that specific in there. So if it's in the land bond language on the checklist, then we don't need it.
Yes.
Well, so I think one of the reasons why this is difficult is we're eliminating that preliminary assessment form, which had some of these things in it. And so what Zam's done is he's kind of added it into this, and I think it's good.
Yeah.
And
It's not eliminating, we're just updating the preliminary form to be more
well,
more
I'm not talking about the application form, but we actually had what was called a preliminary assessment form, a preliminary assessment checklist, and we never really used it.
well, it was used as the primary
Well, it was
application.
used, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was used as a part of, yeah.
Right. And that checklist, to me, as a less experienced applicant, that checklist wasn't very helpful because there was a lot of open questions based on the way that checklist worked in my mind. So yeah, to answer your question, the question about giving public access to this land and what it is needs to be in there somehow. So let me look at the land bond language and try to figure that out. And let's just assume that we're going to start from scratch on this evaluation. And I would like to work with Nicole on updating it and sending it to folks and have people look at it before the next meeting. Can people commit to that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Sure.
looking at six does talk about access. So I think if you were to add the trails there as like another checkbox. You might
Well,
be able to lose, you might be
yeah.
able to lose 5.
Yeah, let's not go into back into minutia here. I think we've kind of come up a level, and it requires a new write of this, which is great. We want to get it right. So let's not go back to the minutia now.
Well, when a large property owner comes, let's say for instance, I have 100 acres and I wanted to, yeah, and I want to like donate it or sell it or something. And I show up in town hall and I say, I've got this is what I want to do. What would the next step be? Somebody would say, go talk to Nicole
Well,
at
they have.
Community
we
Services.
Have for lack of better words, a dummy email set up. Where they would be able to submit their questions, submit an application, everything, and basically it's.
So they would get this form in electronic version?
No, they would submit their question to.
Basically, any communications plus application submissions would go through that email address.
So
Remember though, we're missing a big. We need a purchaser of the land. Unless the town is going to purchase a whole piece of property and become the conserver of that land, which is unlikely. I think typically that person would be referred to
The
the
land trust,
land
maybe?
trust. Yes.
Well, Nicole, the staff liaison, the town council liaison and the chair of PCLB would receive the interest, the inquiry. And then together would just decide how to respond and based on a host of factors.
But you're right, it's not very often that we have somebody just coming forward and saying, I have this.
It's usually a neighbor.
There's usually an in-betweener, right, that's purchasing it.
But yes, there is a process for that. And it wouldn't be just sending the application.
Right. So remember, this is not an application for the seller. It's for the purchaser of land for conservation.
I've got 11:28.
I move to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Can we have a discussion?
We need some steps here. Yes, thanks, Susan. Jump in.
Okay, so I just emailed all of you guys sort of a draft thing, but you know, you can look at it if you have time, but Zam and I'll continue to work on sort of the report, but I think it will help once we have the application evaluation process actually sort of outlined and you look at it too. I think we're getting a little bogged down in the minutia of this. And so my suggestion is that you look at the changes that have been made thus far in some of the verbiage of the application evaluation process. We didn't get that far, but try to look at it before the meeting and this is not for formatting because the document isn't ready to get formatted or anything. A lot of the stuff's going to be deleted. I sent you the entire copy from 2001 with changes made by Zam and me. So just so you could see what we're deleting, because we don't need all of the information. And I just want to make sure that we do that a little bit ahead of time so that we don't get bogged down in the meeting with discussing little details like punctuation or words or whatever. I think we can, if you have suggestions on those, come directly to Zam and I, and we can do it.
Yeah, thanks,
Can I ask
Susan. Now,
one last question. Scott, do you have anything in the pipeline right now?
I've got things in the pipeline, yeah, but nothing ready to come to PCLB within like the next meeting.
thank you, Scott. As the new chair, I have a question for the group. Are people willing to do work via email in some electronic fashion to work through some of these forms and documents, so we don't have to sit here in an hour and a half and try to get through very complex things? It just doesn't seem to be an efficient way to do it. Are people willing to put time in between meetings, especially if the meetings are only going to be every other month, to get through some of this process?
I did it. I worked a little bit. So I think, yeah, I think everybody should. I don't know that you guys are going to have a much to do except for read, and if you have thoughts on something. So, and just
Right.
throw an email to Zam or I.
Right. It's a review. It's a process of reviewing and commenting electronically, so we can, because we have a working document now is working fine, but we really want to try. My goal is to try to get this done in the first quarter, to have a new form and a new process document by the end of March. Do people feel like we can do that?
I do.
I'm willing to read and review. I'm not willing to spend, I don't have time, a lot of extra time to be rewriting things
No,
and
no, 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 no. No. Susan and I are going to
I
take
don't.
the. Yeah, Susan and I are going to work on the writing, the composing. We just need folks to be actively reviewing and commenting when they get an email. Will people buy into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
If you
Zam.
send it to me, I'll read it and comment.
Thank you.
Hey, Zam.
Yes,
So just so you know, it's Suzanne, not Susan. Sue. This
Suzanne.
is for everybody.
Sue. Okay, either Sue or Suzanne.
Sue, Susie, Suzanne. No, Susan.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I didn't know you were elected chair.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, and who's vice chair?
Me.
Anton. Okay, great.
Yeah, I figured I'd take the plum job first.
So
Yeah, when
our
I
next
step
meeting-
down, you're in big trouble. Isn't that the role of the?
Our next
Okay.
meeting is Wednesday, March 11th. You guys must have said that last meeting. Just so you all know, I can't attend Wednesday meetings. I definitely won't be here.
Can we adjust that?
I think there was a reason why we didn't go with the
Somebody
Thursday.
wasn't available on Thursday.
It's fine that, yeah, I don't.
No,
mind you all-
no, I'd rather.
I think Maggie had a commitment on a Thursday.
I can't do Thursdays throughout the,
Well,
Yeah, for like the first quarter.
yeah.
It's all good. I'm only one of committee members. I'm just telling you that I can't make Wednesday meetings. I won't.
Well,
attend that.
is there an alternative to Wednesday? That way we can assure ourselves that Noah's here.
I would appreciate that if we can find a
What
time.
about pushing it? Oh, you can't, maybe another day, Tuesday?
Tuesday?
I would have to get off my Zoom in order to check availability of
I
sites.
don't know.
Yeah, I given it's every other month, if we can find a time that everybody can be here, at least commit now, that would be helpful.
These dates are published on the website currently, so we'd have to make sure that any new members knew that the date was changing. So we have a room.
That's fine. I mean, yeah, so I think it's important to have Noah and Maggie, folks that have a little bit of history here, to be present at the next meeting.
Yeah, for me, it was only that March date I couldn't do.
Okay.
Well, I suggest sticking with your meeting, like, sticking with the meeting time, that's okay. I don't wanna cause,
No, they're not causing a problem. You're providing a resource that we think is valuable.
So does Tuesday the 10th work for folks?
Not that I matter, but it works for me.
You, Matt, or your vice chair.
I teach till 11. In Biddeford. But I'm free the rest of the afternoon.
I am free all day that day. Can people meet at 1 o'clock?
What on?
I have a 2 o'clock.
How about
12?
12 o'clock and I'll bring in lunch?
On what day?
The
On
10th.
March 10th.
Okay.
I can do it.
Can anybody not do March 10th at 12 o'clock? Okay, let's do that. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Location to be determined.
Yeah, Nicole, can you find location and update the website as well as communicate with the new members?
Yeah,
Thank you.
we don't know. No, it's like, I think it's the third week in January.
Do we have new members?
No.
We will.
Yeah, they haven't. No, yeah.
All right.
To adjourn.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys, gals, and people of all sorts.